things are going so great, though, then why is it the White House officials are trying to redefine recession?
No, we're not redefining recession.
If we all understand a recession to be 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth in a row, and then you have White House officials come up here to say, no, that's not what a recession is. It's something else. How is that not redefining recession?
Because that's not the definition. That is not the definition.
Brian Deese said in 2008, of course, economists have a technical definition, which is of a recession, which is 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth.
I can tell you this.
Yesterday he said 2 negative quarters of GDP growth is not the technical definition of a recession.
It is
What
not.
changed?
It is not.
Why did he say that
it
was?
is not. I can speak to what he said yesterday in front of all of you, which is the last thing that you just repeated. There are many factors. Economic factors and indicators to consider, and I will say that the textbook definition of recession is not 2 negative quarters of GDP.
Up on the economy, is it a risk for President Biden to say that he does not think the United States is going to be in a recession? And does the White House have any concerns that it will look misguided if the U.S. does enter a recession?
So the second part is, speculation right now, and the answer to your first part is no, because we're looking at the facts. We're looking at the other economic indicators.
Also, there's a new poll showing that 75% of Democratic voters want the party to nominate someone other than Joe Biden as the nominee. What does the president make of that dynamic?
We're not worried about polls. The president has been clear that he intends to run, but we are so far away from that time, even being close to be thinking about that. I will say on the other side, you got the MAGA congressional Republicans who are putting forth plans that's going to take away sunset Medicare, sunset Social Security, increase taxes for Americans making less than $100,000 a year. That is what the plan is on the other side. At least this president has a plan, and he's doing the work on behalf of the American people.
So as you talk about plans on the other side, it was this president's plans that contributed to inflation, right?
No, it was not. It was this president's plan. If we talk about the American Rescue Plan, look, Peter, because of the American Rescue Plan, by the way, no Republican voted for that plan, and that plan had $350 billion for public safety, another thing that Republicans talk about, but they actually don't do. It is not the president that has created inflation. There are also outside factors that has led us to where we are today.
Fed Chair Jay Powell, after raising rates again today, he said in his press conference that the U.S. economy is not currently in a recession, but that the path to have a soft landing clearly has narrowed, which translating out of the jargon means that it's much more likely that we will have a recession. Is that the White House's assessment as well, and what would you do to kind of make that less likely?
And so the way that we see is that we are not currently in a recession or a pre-recession. And look, we're going to let the Fed do its business. We're going to let them continue to be independent.
There's been a lot of debate over the technical term of recession, and this somewhat harkens back to earlier economic messaging that you guys had around inflation, where you insisted that it was transitory for months, then it was temporary, and then we've seen it continue to persist. And I'm wondering if you can just take us in a little bit about how you think about economic messaging, particularly as it relates to recession. The argument over whether we are or not in a recession, I think when we talk to Americans, sort of misses the point about the economic attitude and feeling that they have, and the struggles that they face with increased prices across the board, as we've seen over the many months. And I'm wondering if the White House finds it effective to debate the technical term of recession versus speak more broadly to Americans, who it doesn't really matter whether a group of economists that they've never heard of declare a recession when it comes to their, just getting by.
No, I get your point, and to some degree I agree. Right, there are Americans here who are feeling the high prices and the cost very personally, and that is something that the president, I believe, has talked about almost any time that he talks about the economy. He talks about the pain that the American people are feeling. We will continue to do more by asking oil companies to make sure the profit that they're making pass on to the consumer. But as we are being asked about recession, recession, as we're being asked if we are in one or if we're going to one, what we're doing is just laying out the facts. We're going to continue to talk about the American people. We're going to continue to talk about what they're feeling.
You're setting the expectation that we're not headed to a recession, we're not in a recession. What happens if the NBER does declare we're in a recession?
Well, that's a hypothetical. I'm not going to get into that. I'm just saying where we are currently, how we see things, how...
Does the president have confidence in his economic team's ability to forecast and predict? Obviously, on the inflation, that was something that we heard from the whole host of the same economic officials we're hearing now, that inflation was temporary, it was transitory, it would not persist, and that's been the opposite. They're now saying the same thing about a recession. I'm just curious.
So the president has full confidence in his economic team.